before we get into anything, I want to talk about the Grand Champions Festival. This was the largest grassroots Pokemon tournament of all time, hosted by Scraw, friend of the channel, friend of the Moxie Boosted, friend in real life at times. But yeah, we're gonna talk about it. I just want to go over the finals, talk about like the Pokemon that we saw, some off meta stuff, that sort of thing. There's some great matches. Yeah, there are some great matches, but let's begin with the winner. The winner of this was Regab Malavia. They're a phenomenal player, as we're all aware, playing for many years now. They were running a Charizard Y Mega Eternal Floette dual Mega team. And one of the cool things about this is it's triple attack Eternal Floette, no Calm Mind, which I think is something that a lot of players are leaning towards right now. As strong as like the Calm Mind Eternal Floette sets are, I think that just having the option to say, actually, no, I don't want to set up in front of you to be able to deal like maximum damage. I'm just going to click Light of Ruin if I want to do that. And that's pretty good. And frankly, if you play it on the right team, it does make sense. I mean, like, what's going to do more, a Calm Mind into a Dazzling Gleam or 2 Dazzling Gleams? But yeah. Yeah, we see, Charizard Y Floette, like, that duo is incredible. When you pair Charizard Y with Aerodactyl, it is pretty difficult to stop. There's only a few Pokemon that do okay into that lead, and it's like Garchomp and opposing Aerodactyl to an extent. But still, that lead is very difficult to deal with. We have a Chople Berry Kingambit. We see that like Black Glasses is kind of dropping off in usage as far as Kingambit goes. Chople Berry tends to be the more preferred item on it these days, and I think that has to do with like the amount of fighting Pokemon running around. Obviously you want to be able to actually click a move in front of a Sneasler, but like also you want to be able to win the Kingambit war. So if your Kingambit is faster and you get 2 low kicks off, good game, you win. And that's something that's really funny. Kingambit is one of the best steel types in the game, and it doesn't even run steel type moves, right? That isn't like different from what we've seen in previous generations. In Gen 9 it hardly ran steel type moves, but things are a little different now. Before it ran steel type moves, or before it didn't run steel type moves because Kingambit just wanted to click Swords Dance. Now it doesn't run steel type moves because honestly hitting Tyranitar, hitting Incineroar, hitting I don't think Excadrill takes too much from low kick, but like hitting all these different Pokemon for as much damage as possible, including opposing Kingambit, is more valuable than hitting Eternal Floette, because you could just still hit Eternal Floette with like a nice neutral move. But yeah, other Pokemon on the team, we see Scale Shot, not Mega Garchomp, Scale Shot base Garchomp with a Dragon Fang. I think that Scale Shot is still a stupidly powerful move. I've been running it on my Dragonite, but Scale Shot Garchomp is kind of new tech here. It does make sense. It lets you get like, for one, Scale Shot with a Dragon Fang is going to be doing pretty decent damage into opposing Garchomps. Like, let me show you something, right? So if we have Nerd of Now damage calc, let's pull this up. Garchomp, blank set, Garchomp. Obviously, this is probably like a bulkier Garchomp if it's doing this, but let's just go against like Scarf Adamant Garchomp. Scarf Adamant Garchomp into Garchomp with 2 HP. You see that Adamant Dragon Claw is enough to maybe KO this Garchomp. However, a lot of Garchomp will just go. Invest in bulk to guarantee it. But if you're running an Adamant Garchomp, you can actually do something really cool here. If you're running Scale Shot, and let's just max out the attack, why not? If you're running Scale Shot and you have the Dragon Fang, your Scale Shot is doing a pretty significant amount of damage. 3 hits, that is like the average amount of hits you can expect from Scale Shot, is enough to one-shot opposing Garchomps. It is lower accuracy, however, still incredible damage. And on top of that, like, 1, that's the 3 hit, right? Sometimes you get 2 hits, sometimes you get 2 hits, and that's sad, right? That's sad. What happens when you get 2 hits? Well, now you're faster and the Earthquake picks up, so nothing really. Like, that's the fun part. That's the cool part about like this Garchomp tech. I think that's really smart. I think that Regav ran, I don't know how many people ran this in the tournament total, but I think it was a very good call. Like, this is a really good set. Earthquake, Stopping Tantrum, Scale Shot, Protect. Yeah, no Rock Slide. You have Rock Slide covered by Aerodactyl. Being able to switch up your single target and double target moves is really cool for Garchomp. I think I'm going to start trying out this Garchomp. I think I think that scale shot is like really awesome. Dragon Claw always KOs though. Well, that's actually not necessarily true. Like we saw right here, like a lot of Garchomp right now are leaning towards bulky, and there's still a lot of jolly Garchomp. Matter of fact, let me look at usage stats real quick. Let me switch over to champions. Let's switch over to champions really quick. We can look at this. How many of them are jolly and how many of them are adamant right now? This is what I really love about champions. It's real time. You don't have to wait for like a database to update, like unofficial sources. But you see Scarf is the #1 item, 24%. 53% adamant, 45% jolly. You can see that like it is more or less like a 50-50 on if they're going to have that KO. And you said adamant always KOs, right? Adamant always KOs only if you're running the Dragon Fang. You know, let's show you. Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw is doing 101 to 121. But what you're not accounting for here is that the Dragon Claw is also a contact move into opposing Garchomp. It being a contact move is no bueno because you're going to take recoil. And if you're running like Jolly or you're not running like, you know, anything, if they're like a bulkier Garchomp, then now you're taking like recoil damage. And if they somehow survive, if they're like a Roselli Berry or something, if they're like a Focus Sash, they're going to win the exchange. The scale shot tech is not only good into opposing Garchomp, but it's good into a lot of Garchomp or a lot of Pokemon. One thing that's been picking up lately, we saw Dragonite go incredibly far in this tournament. Dragonite doesn't run a ton of bulk, it usually runs 2, but it has multi-scale, right? Scale shot lets you bypass the multi-scale because, and that's only 2 hits, right? Scale shot lets you bypass the multi-scale, meaning that even with like only 3 hits, you still have a role to KO opposing Dragonite through their multi-scale. Because the first one does half damage, and then the rest do full damage. You can see when you turn off the multi-scale, give it like, I don't know, motor drive. It's guaranteed KO. So yeah, that is really awesome for Garchomp. I think Garchomp's really cool. Yeah, and even in the Mega form, like you're KOing like opposing Dragonite. Like, you know, that, and you have to be more careful with those Dragonite because they do get that little speed boost. Use Mega Garchomp, it's better. It is not always better. In fact, usually it's not better. My evidence for this, I'm going to show you this real quick. If you might be like one of 10 people using Mega Garchomp. Base Garchomp gets you a lot more value. Mega Garchomp is like a really expensive life orb. It comes at the expense of your Mega and also at your speed stat. Currently, 2.9% of Garchomp, we'll call it 3% of Garchomp, run the Garchompite. Because all of its other items tend to get you a little bit more value. And that speed tier is way too good for you to pass up. So yeah, no, Mega Garchomp is not better than, than base Garchomp in most situations. But yeah, that was really cool. I think that's like the most interesting part about the Rogov team. This channel is partnered with Gamersupps. If you want to support my work and get great tasting drinks, you can order Gamersupps through my link in the description down below or with code Moxie boosted at checkout for 10% off. Gamersupps is a caffeinated product that I recommend only to my 18+ viewers, but my link will send you to their caffeine-free product section just in case. Every product purchased through my link supports my channel financially, so I'd really appreciate the support. Now back to the video. In second place, Mega Umbreon VGC. They also had a phenomenal run. We see White Herb Sneasler. We also saw a no Scale Shot Dragonite. We see Dragon Claw once again, making sure you you guarantee the KO on like Garchomp and stuff. That's pretty good. Just in a different way. I like Scale Shot better. I'm more of a gambler. I think that Scale Shot Tailwind is really awesome. But what do I know? I did not get second in this tournament. We see White Herb Sneasler standard set. We see a King Gambit, Low Kick Choppleberry, Focus Sash Basculegion with Liquidation, Last Respects, Aqua Jet. Sash Basculegion's really cool. You do miss out on a lot of damage from Wave Crash, but being able to play it a little bit more recklessly and not like having to take as many trades, being able to go for Liquidation into Aqua Jet, into opposing King Gambit is really nice as you're not getting one shot by Sucker Punch. We see Mega Frostlass. This one is running the standard Blizzard Shadow Ball Aurora Veil set. A Scald, Icy Wind, Life Dew, Milotic. That actually pairs really well with Dragonite, as not only are you defending Dragonite from Intimidate, but you're going to be able to give Dragonite back its multi-scale over and over again with Life Dew as you set up Tailwind with it. So yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Bulba Garden, thanks for the raid. Before we get into like Ampharos laddering tonight, I'm just going over like what we saw from this tournament. Yeah, that was finals. Going into top 4, we see Samuel T. Focus Sash Aerodactyl with Garchomp. We see Swords Dance Garchomp with a White Herb. That's been very good as of late. Aegislash with a Spell Tag. Standard physical set. Floette with Light of Ruin, Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam. Yeah, we see, like I said, 3 attack Floette. 3 fairy type attack Floette's been very good. Rotom Wash and Incineroar with Charcoal. Ooh, Charcoal is actually really cool on Incineroar. That's an item that hasn't been super common. However, what Charcoal lets you do that's really awesome is it makes your Incineroar a lot more offensive of a tool than a lot of people are used to in this metagame. So let me show you something. Incineroar versus King Gambit. This is like one of the biggest ones. King Gambit will give it like Black Glass's 32 attack. You give it the Incineroar Flare Blitz, right? Incineroar with an Adamant Nature. You typically want to invest a lot in bulk to get the most value out of Incineroar, right? However, if you want to guarantee the KO versus King Gambit, you actually can't. You literally cannot guarantee the KO versus King Gambit with your Incineroar if you're running Adamant 32 attack, and that's because King Gambit is stupidly broken. However, if you bypass the Citrus Berry option and go Charcoal, now you can guarantee a one-shot into King Gambit with less attack investment. 28 attack investment is all it takes to one-shot a King Gambit with 32 HP. And even if they have like physical defense investment, it's not that much more attack investment. You can go all the way up to max attack, and now you still guarantee it. That's really cool. I think you don't necessarily have to do that. I think it's a little bit of a waste. Yes, I believe this was the 103 speed in Sin. I don't know. I saw it on Twitter, but this is also a really cool Incineroar because Incineroar can hit 103 speed, and for not a lot of investment, all things considered. So we don't have like the stat spread, or we might have the stat spread. We might have the stat spread. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go check real quick. Okay, so as it turns out, the 103 speed Incineroar was Shuka-Berry. But if we combine these two ideas, you actually do end up with something really crazy. Incineroar can hit 103 speed, right? That is the Tailwind number, meaning that if you set up Tailwind, your Incineroar now outspeeds Mega Gengar, right? So I think did this Incineroar have, it wasn't knockoff, it was Throat Chop, right? Darkest Lariat, yeah, that makes more sense. This Incineroar had Darkest Lariat. Darkest Lariat. And into Gengar, offensive Mega Gengar, your Darkest Lariat into 2 HP Mega Gengar is a guaranteed one-shot, meaning that if you get up Tailwind, your Incineroar now goes first in KO's Gengar. They're like, oh, they're gonna want to fake out me, so my partner Pokemon's gonna protect, and this Gengar might protect, might attack, who knows, right? And then you Tailwind, and then you Darkest Lariat it, and it drops. That's the fun part. However, the 103 is not just for Mega Gengar, right? It's also good for Delphox, because Delphox is slightly faster. Delphox, Mega Delphox, hits 204. This lets you hit 206. Your Darkest Lariat is also a one-shot into Mega Delphox. That's so cool. So I think you could actually go with like a really, like, you could combine these two concepts, right? You really could. Like, if you only need that much attack, you could still run the Charcoal, right? And then into King Gambit, right? You see this like King Gambit, you put the Charcoal on your Incineroar, you increase the, you know, the attack a little bit just to like make it more in your favor. You could just go honestly like really, just a really offensive Incineroar. You want to make it, what was the thing we need? We needed 28. Where was it? Oh wait, that was Impish. Hold on, Adamant. Yeah, if you want to go like Adamant, 28 attack does guarantee the one shot into King Gambit, and you're still left with 10. You're still left with 10 points. So you could go with like odd number HP to help you out in like certain situations. Sorry. I don't know. Let's do this, right? You probably want to survive -1 close combat, or at least make it a roll. Actually, I'm really curious. Sneasler, White Herb, Jolly, close combat. That's a -1 attack. Close combat is that much. Let us get rid of Intimidate real quick. Okay, you can never live that, but still, still, it's kind of cooking. It's kind of I think that this is an interesting Incineroar concept that we have to bookmark. We have to bookmark this Incineroar for later, because Incineroar is not usually an offensive Pokemon. It's usually like a more supportive Pokemon. But in formats like this, where it's lower power, Incineroar does swing pretty hard, right? I'm gonna bookmark this one for me. We're gonna put 28. Adamant. Hit 103. I'll just do like, I don't know, I'll make it look all fancy, right? Impress the audience. Ooh, all right. Charcoal. Intimidate. Fake Out. Flare Blitz. Darkest Lariat. This also does pretty good into freaking, hold on, because your Darkest Lariat, right? How much are you doing to Archaludon? Your Lariat's doing 30%. That's a 3 KO on Archaludon. Sometimes. After, not with leftovers recovery, obviously, but still, you know, Adamant Incineroar cooks. It cooks. What was the 4th move on the Charcoal Incineroar? I'm really curious. Parting Shot. Yeah, that makes sense. I was gonna say, maybe you could just run 3 attacks Incineroar low-key. Yeah, Parting Shot obviously makes the most sense. That's cool. Bookmark it for later. Yeah, awesome. 25 attack Charcoal Incineroar Flare Blitz versus 32-14 events. Sinus Shot guaranteed Oko. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's so cool. All right, and obviously Santino Tarquinio. Gotta give our flowers to this guy. Goated VGC player. Players Cup champion. We have a Mega Gengar, Perish Song, Sludge Bomb, Shadow Ball, Protect. Paired with Incineroar. Obviously these two can do anything if you put your mind to it. We have the Low Kick, Chopo Berry, Kowtow Cleave, King Gambit. We have Never Melt Ice Alolan Ninetales. I think that's really cool. It just makes the Alolan Ninetales actually swing a little bit harder. I'm not sure what it's for. I'm not sure what in the metagame you want to make sure you're like. That's usually for like an Oko, right? Garchomp, I believe, always drops to Ninetales even without Never Melt Ice. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm dumb. Scarf Offense. Blizzard. Let's turn off Never Melt Ice. Yeah, I mean, Blizzard's always one-shotting with Timid. It could be like, it could just be like a thing where it guarantees the one-shot without too much investment, but you already guarantee the one-shot without any investment, really. I'm not sure what that's for. I guess it's just general damage. It could just be like a calc where it's like a neutral Pokemon gets 2-hit KO'd now. That could be it. Actually, what if it's Sneasler? That could make sense. Sneasler has like not the worst special defense. Blizzard. 32. Never Melt Ice. Yeah, no, now you 2-hit KO Sneasler sometimes. That could be it. I'm not sure. But yeah. Other than that, we see Dragon Claw, Low Kick, Dragon Fang, Dragonite also make a pretty deep run. But like about broad things. Boosting Blizzard will never not be good. I know it will never not be good, but I was really curious like to see if there was like one specific calc that it was for. There are a couple of more teams that did pretty good. I do want to point out the Brady Smith team that I believe got, what, 11th? Here. VGC Corner, yeah, Brady Smith. Before he was VGC Corner, he was B Smithy. You guys remember that. But I thought this was really cool. I think Palafin next to Gengar is actually a very strong option. The Encore on Palafin I thought was really interesting too, because Palafin is a Pokemon that threatens a lot of Pokemon to have to protect in front of it, and it has a pretty decent speed tier. I mean, it's like 100 base speed, which means that you're outspeeding a lot of Pokemon already, and by forcing Pokemon to protect into Palafin, maybe on like a turn where they know that they can protect here, get a free switch into like a Sinistcha or like some other Pokemon that might be able to heal or something, then the next turn you just Encore them into protect, then they're kind of just goobed. That is interesting. I know that Brady on Twitter did say that instead of Encore, you probably would have gone with flip turn in a lot of situations instead. But yeah, we do see double Encore here. Mouse hold with the Focus Sash. Super Fang, Follow Me, Protect. Standard set. We have a Pelipper who actually runs Muddy Water over Weather Ball. I guess that's just for spreading general damage as you are running a Perish team. We have the Citrus Berry, Incineroar, Fake Out, Darkus Lariat, Protect, and Parting Shot. And we have Scarf Hydreigon, Dark Pulse, Draco Meteor, U-Turn. I think this is a really cool team. Palafin is a very underrated Pokemon right now. That feels weird to say, but I think that Palafin is being overlooked a lot for Basket Legion, but you can't really forget how strong Palafin is, especially on a Perish team. Palafin loves to switch because it is Palafin and it has to switch. On a Perish team, it's pretty easy to just do that for free or just get like an instant KO in certain situations, because you have to keep in mind that like even though baby Palafin doesn't have like the highest attack stat, right? That wave crash with rain up is still going to be doing a ton of damage and you're still 100 base speed. And since I believe this is Mystic Water Palafin, yeah, your Mystic Water Palafin, even in the baby form, right? Turn off Palafin Hero. You're still Mystic Water. If rain is active and you're facing like a Garchomp or something and they want to go with like a more passive play, like attacking your partner Pokemon, wave crash in rain with the Mystic Water is still putting them in range of Jet Punch. You can still wait. Like, that's a ton of recoil, don't get me wrong. But like, that's still a play that you can go for. Like, even baby Palafin is useful. And then, of course, when you switch out, Hero Palafin is just getting one-shots in rain. It is a ridiculous Pokemon. Actually, I'm really curious how much it does to like bulky Incineroar at -1. At -1, your Jet Punch is doing up to 90% and your Wave Crash is still KOing. Palafin is ridiculous. Yeah, I know that like Basket Legion is strong, but Basket Legion kind of doesn't get to do a lot of things that Palafin gets to do. Yes, Palafin can be faked out. Yes, Palafin isn't like as reliable of an endgame sweeper as Basket Legion, but you have to keep in mind with this particular team, with a Gengar, right? A Pokemon that already hates facing Kingambit. With an Incineroar, a Pokemon which doesn't have a fire type move, also hates facing Kingambit because Kingambit can just low kick it at +1. Palafin is probably the better choice, as you don't want to have another Pokemon that can't take on Kingambit. It just patches that without sacrificing another weakness on the team. So yeah. Other things to note, I do want to look at the general metagame. Oh, we have to talk about Watchog. We gotta talk about Watchog. All right, chat. I believe it was Thaz Kid who made the deep run with Watchog. Yeah, 9-4-0 with Watchog. Thaz Kid won. They had a crazy run. This was a Choppleberry Analytic Watchog. If you don't know what Analytic does, it basically gives you a Life Orb boost. It gives you a Life Orb boost if you move second or last. I'm not sure how it works in doubles. Let me see if Showdown will tell me. Watchog. Analytic, the last to move in a turn. And Watchog's pretty slow, so. Well, not like super slow, but like it's pretty slow. Is it only like against the Pokemon that you're attacking, or is it against every Pokemon on the field? I'm not sure if chat can tell me, but yeah, we have Choppleberry Watchog. It's going to be able to probably take a close combat, I'd imagine. It does have Watchog stats, so questionable. But Crunch, Hypnosis, Low Kick, Ice Punch. Ice Punch with an Analytic boost, I believe, is a roll against Garchomp, but a roll in your favor. Low Kick is obviously going to be able to deal with Tyranitar and Kingambit, so that's pretty incredible. Just against your target? Okay, that's good. And Hypnosis is like a bailout move, from what I understand. The team as a whole is obviously pretty sound. We have Garchomp and Zard Y. Scarf Chomp with Zard Y is like a tried and true combo in this format. But what's interesting is the lack of Tailwind. Also the lack of Trickery. The lack of speed control generally outside of Sableye. So Sableye is kind of like a mandatory bring on this sort of team. But it is really useful. I mean, like being able to go for Reflect, make sure your entire Pokemon or your entire team takes really reduced damage in like a very heavily physical metagame is really cool. Foul Play, once again, strong in a heavily physical metagame, and Thunder Wave being your only speed control. There's options, you know, there's options here. But yeah, Masquerade also a really solid pick. Low Kick, Flower Trick, Triple Axle, and Sucker Punch. Lots of coverage there. Gotta acknowledge that. But yeah, let's talk about general usage. Of course, Sneasler is #1 in this game. How many people did we have total? I think it was like 6,000 something. Let me see. Standings. Go all the way to the bottom. Sorry. Combined. Can I not see? Oh yeah, there it is. This is gonna take a second. This is the biggest grassroots tournament ever. 6,100 players. That is a lot of Pokemon playing. There's a lot of people playing Pokemon, man. Yeah. So half of them, more than half of them had a Sneasler. That is a 50.58% usage rate. Sneasler obviously holds the format together like glue. Fake Out, the speed tier, being able to take on the only fairy type that matters right now, and Gardevoir and Sylveon obviously is like really good. Close combat, just being able to shut down Incineroar and keep Kingambit in check is incredible. it's a balanced Pokemon in my opinion, you know? 3000 Sneasler is a meme, but it's a true meme. We have Garchomp in second, Incineroar in third, King Gambit. We already know what all these Pokemon do. I think Sinistcha as fourth most used is actually really interesting because I did not expect Sinistcha to be in fourth. I figured it would be Basculegion. But yeah, Basculegion also very, very heavily used. Milotic, not a Pokemon that would have seen a ton of usage on, like, if this was like a week 1 tournament, but a more recent metagame adaptation, if you guys watch my video talking about that. We do see Tyranitar with pretty high usage stats, Farigiraf, Floette, Eternal with 758. You have to imagine that that lower number is somewhat influenced by the fact that you have to beat Legend ZA to get it. But despite that, almost 1/6, I'm gonna call it like 1/7 of the like the tournament players did end up bringing it. And yeah, Corviknight had a pretty good showing. Komodo also in the running for one of the better Pokemon. Blastoise not looking incredible. I think it's funny just how weak Dragapult is in this format. I don't think it's a bad Pokemon, but I think that it is kind of like in a weird place right now. Like there's a lot of good dark type Pokemon that are just kind of ruining its day. It's an interesting mon. It's an interesting mon, all things considered. But word around the block, there was the Hawlucha player that finished the highest placing. Hawlucha player was pretty handsome. Who was that? Well, that was Moxie Boosted, who should have day 2'd. You will see the video. I got extremely unlucky in my game that kept me out of day 2. But yeah, my winning did not go well. But Hawlucha, pretty good Pokemon. There's a Vanillix on the second place Hawlucha team, which makes me mad because I know it has entrainment and sheer cold, right? But I think that I do want to talk about my Hawlucha usage. I think that Hawlucha is not an incredible Pokemon. Not incredible. That being said, you gotta watch the games that I played with Hawlucha. Hawlucha was kind of good in the games that I played. I was like, I think I need to bring it to this matchup, and it kept getting KOs. I did not run entrainment. A lot of people saw the Hawlucha when I said I was gonna run it, and they were like, oh, did he have entrainment on it? Is he doing Oko Cheese? No, I'm not doing Oko Cheese. Oko Cheese was... It's not good. It's not a good strategy. But I ran cross shop, coaching, dual wing beat, quick guard. I put it on a sand team because basically Hawlucha is able to do well into opposing sand, and it's a super physical format, and a lot of my Pokemon don't want to have to deal with Sneasler, so I'm able to go for a dual wing beat into opposing Sneasler, get the one shot, and just kind of clean up the board for them. It's also a flying type. I didn't want to have to run Raybird on my Corviknight because I prefer Iron Head. I just like Iron Head better because even though it doesn't hit like Pokemon as hard, it's better for longevity. I'm not taking recoil of return and like just just risking it. So yeah, just being able to deal with opposing fighting types on a sand team is important. Opposing grass types, Mega Meganium could be a problematic matchup as it hits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of my Pokemon for super effective damage. The steel types, obviously because of Weather Ball. Hawlucha though, actually Mega Meganium hits my whole team for super effective damage, but I didn't lose to it. But yeah, Hawlucha is able to put it in range of like stuff like Iron Head with dual wing beat and stuff. It's a good Pokemon for this team. Coaching is really nice tech. It's a super physical metagame. Like I said, if you just end up against like a sand team, get rid of their 1, maybe 2 special attackers if they bring the second one, and just start coaching, boosting your Corviknight, your Excadrill. They're gonna have a hard time. That was my team though. That's what I ran. This was fun. This is fun. I think that this sort of info for Pokemon is extremely important. Does the size of the tournament lead to some trash numbers? Not like trash like bad, but I mean like there's a lot of people playing the game, right? Great players, good players, and not so great players, and players who frankly didn't know what they were doing, because there's like such a wide breadth of like skill level. It is good data, frankly, but like if you want the really good data, you got to look at Swiss Face 2 and Top Cut, because these are the people who made it through. No Hawluchas in day 2, sorry everybody. But yeah, we do see Sneasler translates very well. Sinistcha had one of the weaker conversion rates. Sinistcha was in 4th, and then it got bumped all the way down to, what is that, 5, 6, 7, 8th. So that isn't great. Actually, I'm really curious. Combined, who had like the worst conversion rate? Is it Milotic? Is it Milotic? Milotic was at 10th? Yeah, 10th. And then if we go to Swiss Phase 2... Oh, no, it's still 10th. Who had the worst conversion rate? Scizor had a pretty good conversion rate. Scizor's in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17th place. Where combined, Scizor was definitely nowhere near that, right? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25th place. That is a pretty good switch. Shout out to the one Simipour in day 2. Yeah, there were a couple of Simipour players. I think Simipour is not a bad Pokemon in this metagame. It's like not the best, but it does do some pretty cool roll compression. If you want the the fake out of Incineroar, the Icy Wind of Milotic, the Scald of Milotic, and the Protect of every other Pokemon in the game, Simipour's your guy. I guess it also gets Taunt, right? It gets like a lot of good tools. I genuinely don't think Simipour's a bad Pokemon. I think that you do get a lot of value from it on your team if you need the roll compression. If it's like, I need all these tools and I am out of Pokemon. I can't run Milotic and Incineroar and Sneasler. It's like, well, what if you just ran one monkey, you know? Anyways, yeah, that's gonna do it for my coverage of this tournament. I'll upload my video going over my run on the main channel at some point, but yeah, that is my coverage for this tournament.